Hello, good afternoon. Billions of pounds were wiped off the value of Tesco shares today after the supermarket giant admitted it had messed up on its pricing and marketing strategy, resulting in disappointing Christmas sales. Sales fell 2.3%, the worst performance for years, forcing Chief Executive Philip Clarke to admit its £500 million big price drop campaign had failed to attract extra customers. The results are worrying some economists. The company's performance is often cited as a key indicator of the health of the high street. Romilly Weeks has more.
This Christmas, even mighty Tesco felt the pinch. Its big price drop winter promotion has turned into the big share price drop. Today, more than £4 billion was wiped off its shares after the supermarket delivered its worst Christmas sales performance for decades.
The truth is, right in the heart of Christmas, right in the heat of the moment, there was a lot of competitor couponing and we weren't doing it. So with hindsight, maybe a bit more promotion couponing should have been in place at Tesco.
Tesco is a third of the big four supermarkets to report its Christmas trading figures. Its like-for-like sales fell 2.3%, much worse than predicted. But Morrison's reported a 0.7% rise, and Sainsbury's had a record Christmas with a 2.1% growth in sales.
Just remember, Tesco is probably the greatest retailer, bar none, that the UK has ever produced. And so it's obviously the one that everyone targets. So Sainsbury's brand match promotion has been really effective, I think, in saying you don't lose out from shopping at Sainsbury's, and yet our quality is probably better as well.
Customers at a Tesco store today said they now shopped around.
I do Sainsbury's as well, so I tend to alternate between them.
Well, we do go to the others sometimes. We find this easy for parking.
The parking's easier here.
To be honest, I do shop at Sainsbury's, and I think it's like the point system as well. Everyone's trying to get the vouchers.
Tesco weren't the only ones not to have a very Merry Christmas. Sales at Argos and Mothercare were also down. More evidence of the chill settling on the high street as we all watch our spending. Romilly Weeks, ITV News.
Well, let's get more now from our economics editor, Richard Edgar, who's outside a Tesco's in North London. So, Richard, it seems that Tesco might be losing its magic touch.
I'm afraid so, yes. I mean, that share price fall today, over 15% at one stage, really does speak for itself. And that's shocking the markets, not just at the Christmas sales figures, which were disappointing, but rather more at the outlook for 2012. Philip Clarke, the chief executive, you heard from him a few moments ago. I was speaking to him earlier, and he said that he doesn't really expect much growth in profits at all for the whole year in 2012, in part because he's going to be ploughing money back into the business to try to fix some of the problems. So a very tough set of results for them, but this is only one set of results. We've got a whole year to go.
Indeed, Richard, we were saying earlier that Tesco often cited as a key economic indicator. So what might this tell us about what lies ahead?
Well, I think that the results that we've seen from other supermarkets, even the ones that are doing well, like Sainsbury's, all of them are saying that this has been an extremely tough time over Christmas, and it's going to be a very tough 2012. Goldman Sachs economists in London, they said that there was a fall in disposable income here in Britain that's falling at the fastest rate since almost the Second World War. So a tough climate for these retailers, but that does mean lower prices in the shops, and that's good news for shoppers.
Richard, thank you.
The stores that they would have liked. But the new chief executive, Philip Clarke, who took over in March, also recognises that over a period of years, as the business was investing massively in Asia, in Eastern Europe, in the internet, in banking, it probably wasn't investing enough in its British stores, which are, of course, the heart of the business. They are now making a huge investment in the British stores, and the cost of that investment will be taken out of profits, and that's why next year profits are not going to grow, and that's why the shares have absolutely plunged today. Now, he would hope that over time the owners of the business will see that this is absolutely essential to turning the business around, and that Tesco will again, as it did 20 years ago, be able to reinvent itself and grow. But it is a big shock because for a number of years, Tesco has been that unusual British retailer, one that seemed completely immune to wider economic conditions. What do we see? This is a frail, vulnerable human business which has got some pretty serious problems to tackle.
Robert Peston, our business editor, thank you very much.
Now, Tesco has admitted getting its promotional strategy wrong in the run-up to Christmas. The retail giant reported a drop in sales and billions of pounds were wiped off the value of its shares today. It says it expects minimal growth in its profits over the coming year. Our business editor, Robert Peston, has been speaking to the man in charge of Britain's biggest retailer.
On the high street, among famous brands, probably the most feared and admired is Tesco. But flat Christmas sales and a warning of stagnating profits ahead caused its share price to plummet 16%, wiping almost £5 billion off the company's value. Tesco, Britain's biggest retailer, seemed almost immune to what was going on in the wider economy. Since the recession, sales kept growing and profits kept growing. Not any longer. Philip Clark, who became chief executive in March, says part of what went wrong was that the group failed to woo shoppers with generous money-off vouchers in December, when many of its rivals were doing that. But he also warned that Tesco had for a few years invested too little in its British supermarkets. You took over in March. Are the problems in the stores worse than you expected?
As we've got under the covers, we've realised just what we need to do to get back to be leading, and that's what customers expect from Tesco. For decades we've done it. Every business needs to reinvent, and this is the start of that process.
Here's the measure of Tesco's humiliation. Recent sales at Sainsbury's, its great rival, rose 2.1% in underlying or like-for-like terms, whereas Tesco's fell 1.3%, albeit for a slightly different period.
Over the last 10 years, Tesco has raised everybody's game. Everybody has had to improve their offer and the way they run things to compete with Tesco. And now they're on a roll, as it were, and Tesco's faltering.
British shoppers are enduring a squeeze on living standards worse than anything they've suffered since reliable statistics became available in the 1950s. So results today also showed sales drops at Argos, at Mothercare and at Thornton's. But it's not the first time Tesco has had to mend itself in difficult economic circumstances, Mr. Clark says.
As we look back to the big decisive steps we took, it was when things were getting tough for the economy, when things were getting tough for customers. We invested, and then when the economy improved, we came out even stronger.
Tesco's boss says it's vital that the British supermarkets again become the engine of this global company's growth. It's a big moment for a 90-year-old business, a test of whether it can remake itself to avoid long-term decline. Robert Peston, BBC News.